Good morning. As we begin this week, we celebrated and had a harp and bowl service yesterday. I hope that was meaningful for you. To me, it's such a wonderful way to gather the church together and to have a spirit of prayer along with the spirit of worship. It's kind of like a hunger that we have to hear from God. And when we go to God in prayer, we want to hear His voice. As we look this week at our lectionary, we begin with Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 4, and then verses 7 through 9. These are the Ten Commandments. You may have memorized those as you're a child in Vacation Bible School. You may have seen them as they used to be displayed in front of courthouses as symbols, maybe of political battles. But for many of us, they've lost their meaning. We don't really remember them so much. The thing that I like to remember is the first part has to do with our relationship with God, the first 3 or 4, and then the last 6 or 7 have to do with our relationship toward our fellow man. But when we look back as when these were given, when Moses came down and brought the 10 Commandments, the people of God were hungry, or the Israelite people, those who were fleeing from captivity, and they were hungry to hear a word from God spoken through Moses as they wandered through the wilderness. And Moses speaks that word. He says, hear God's name. And he says, holy, holy is God. It actually says, I am the God who brought you out of slavery. Have no other gods before me. He's proclaiming that he is their salvation. And that name, the name of God, was such an important name that they wouldn't even speak it. They held it so holy and worshipful. Certainly today we have no problem speaking God's name. And maybe it would be good to go back to that day and time when we revered God like we should. Maybe we could even go back to a time when we were hungry to hear a word from God. It always reminds me of Psalm 42, as the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee, O God. As we go on in the Old Testament reading from Exodus, verses 7 through 9, it says, don't misuse the name of the Lord, and remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. I think that when we look at this, we hear this word from God. I think the word is timely for us today. It tells us even today what we want to know and what we want to hear, a word from God. It says he is holy. He is our salvation. He's the one that's brought us out of slavery to sin and death, just as he brought the Israelite children out of slavery in Egypt. We're to revere his name, to respect him, and to honor him. But I think we also hear in the very end of this, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. It's unfortunate, but in the midst of pandemic, with all the things that are different going on, it's easy to forget to take that Sabbath rest, that Sabbath break. And as Michelle was talking about yesterday, when we pray to God, when we pray, it's a two-way street. We speak, but we also listen. So don't forget to take that time in this busy and hectic world that we're facing and listen for God, because he will speak to us. Loving God, help us to remember that you are God, and help me to remember that I am not God, and help me learn to rest from all that I do, but most of all, to rest and recenter my life in you. God bless you and have a great day.